Okay, picture this for a second. You are the one put in charge of protecting a critical piece of infrastructure, or maybe a massive public event. How do you defend against an invisible threat? And I'm not talking about a traditional fighter jet pinging on a radar screen. I'm talking about a threat that can strike completely silently from the sky, roll right through the brush on the ground, or even slip right beneath the waves completely undetected. Well, this is the very real, newly emerged multi-domain threat of unmanned warfare. It is a massive paradigm shift that actively evades our conventional defense systems. And to be honest, it's a challenge that security forces worldwide are scrambling to figure out.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into a technological marvel that was built to counter this exact modern nightmare. We're looking at the Drone Dome anti-USES detection and decision support system. Over the next few minutes, we're going to literally break down how this invisible shield works, how it thinks, and ultimately, how it protects us.
To understand the cure, we really need to understand the disease. Traditional defenses, they were built for big, loud, fast-moving targets. They just weren't designed for tiny, whisper-quiet, intelligent machines. When you hear the word drone, your mind probably jumps straight to, a quadcopter buzzing in the sky. But the true threat today is a cross-modality nightmare. Yes, we're dealing with aerial UAVs, but now we've also got ground unmanned vehicles and naval threats, which means both surface boats and deeply submerged underwater vehicles. It's a highly synchronized, three-dimensional problem.
And the thing is, these systems don't just exist across all these domains. They operate with incredibly low visibility. They can skim the treetops, crawl through rugged terrain, and dive deep underwater in absolutely terrible weather. They don't need a coffee break, they don't need daylight, and they don't get tired. Day and night across the air, ground, and water, they basically render traditional radar and sentry guards obsolete.
So, with the old-school defenses struggling, how do we plug these massive security gaps? Well, we build an adaptable, invisible shield. Drone Dome doesn't just put up a static wall. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a dynamic, scalable force field. It creates and manages an adaptable boundary around whatever specific operational environment you need to secure, whether that's a tiny forward operating base or a massive coastal port. It wraps right around critical assets, monitoring every single thing that crosses its invisible line.
Section 3. Anatomy of the shield, a technological nervous system.
But how is this dome actually generated? What's the whole shebang made of? To really grasp this, think of a biological nervous system. At the very top, you've got your main processor. That's the brain. It manages the whole protective field and sees the big picture. One level down, you have the protective clusters. These are AI-powered hubs, kind of like your spinal cord or major nerve centers, processing local info super fast. And finally, those clusters push down to the protective nodes. These are your nerve endings, the actual sensors out there in the environment. It's just a brilliantly distributed architecture. We aren't just putting a camera on a pole here. These nodes integrate distributed acoustic sensing, thermal imaging, RF direction finding, LiDAR, hydroacoustic sensors for the underwater threats, and even magnetic sensors. It gives the system comprehensive eyes and ears across basically the entire physical and electromagnetic spectrum. It follows a very precise workflow. It detects something, but it doesn't just blindly sound the alarm. It uses time-distributed sensor activation for multi-stage validation. In plain English, that drastically cuts down false alerts. It means a stray flock of birds isn't going to trigger a total base lockdown. Once it validates the signal, the system triangulates the target, identifies exactly what we're looking at, and provides operational orientation. It's giving you early warning even from super weak, barely there signals. Now, trying to process all that data from optical, acoustic, and RF sensors all at the exact same time, that is humanly impossible. And this is where the AI brains step in. But let's address the elephant in the room regarding who's actually in charge. The architecture is built for AI-assisted detection, validation, and decision support, but crucially, it strictly maintains human-controlled decision-making. The AI does the heavy lifting, right? It rapidly sorts the data, models the threat, spots the tiny drone hidden in the fog, but a human firmly keeps their hand on the wheel for the final action. The AI assists, the human decides. End of story. And here is probably one of the coolest features of the whole system. It's resilience. What if an enemy jams the network and you lose all communication? The nerve endings don't just shut down. These nodes can survive and operate totally independently for up to 2 hours, using their own local thresholds. Then, the second comms are restored, they automatically resync all their event logs and update the main models. It is an incredibly survivable system. This tech isn't just theory, it's actively being used out there right now. Because you can adjust how many nodes you use and where you put them, Drone Dome comes in both fixed and mobile setups. You could permanently install it around a major airport for sure, or you could literally mount the nodes onto vehicles for rapid mobile deployment into constantly changing operational environments.
What exactly is it protecting? Well, think of it as an invisible blanket covering our everyday lives and critical global infrastructure. We are talking about keeping busy aviation and maritime ports running smoothly. We're securing thousands of miles of exposed pipelines, railways, and those vital seabed cables that keep the internet on. It locks down crowded public events, and it keeps military convoys safe while they're on the move. It's literally shielding the foundations of the modern world.
Which brings us to the end of our explainer. I want to leave you with a thought here. Look, as unmanned technology inevitably keeps evolving, as these things get smaller, smarter, and way faster, the arms race between the sword and the shield is only going to speed up. Systems like Drone Dome show us exactly how we're fighting back today, using AI and multimodal sensors to lock down the sky, the ground, and the sea. But the high-stakes question we all have to ask is, as these threats adapt, are our invisible shields really ready for tomorrow?